In this corner, standing at 6'5", weight class unknown, but hailing from the city of sin, put your hands together for Jamieson Welsh. And in this corner, standing at 5'10", weighing in at pounds, and coming to us from his super secret bunker with no AC in Tucson, Arizona, put your hands together for Luis Montemayor.
Thank you. Welcome back to another episode of the Mixed Company Podcast. Of course, I'm one half of the show, Jamieson Welsh, and I'm joined by Luis. Luis, what's going on, man?
Oh, Jamieson, I am so stoked to be back on the mic. We got a lot to talk about today. But first, before anything else, I got to ask, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was cool. It's as you get older, the holidays aren't quite the same. It's one of those things to where, it goes by. It's almost like another day, it seems like, unfortunately. Now, of course, you get to eat food and be with family, but for the most part, it feels like it's just another day. So it's cool. It was cool to be back home for like a day and a half with my mom, my family. So no complaints. But all in all, it was good to get back to business.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're saying about getting older and it being another day, but I guess Thanksgiving's the one for me that's just been consistent because it's just stuffing my fat face. Like, There's nothing about presents, and you're excited to get toys when you're a kid. It's different when you're adult. I don't know. Thanksgiving is just eat and pass out during the middle of the day and then drink some wine. So Thanksgiving seems like one of those easy holidays in between Halloween and Christmas when there's like a lot to do. It's just chilling. So I appreciate it. But yeah, now we are in December, episode 31 of our show. So the first thing we got to get to is the boxing news. We always got to give a shout out to our sponsor, Delightful Smoke Shop in Tucson, located at 6217 East 22nd Street. They're open 7 days a week, so stop by for some goodies and hoodies. And thanks to them for sponsoring the news segment, the Boxing Gazette. Biggest story we got to talk about, the Ring 4 a couple weeks ago in Saudi Arabia. Holy crap. Devin Haney's return to the ring was mind-blowing. Completely unexpected. Admittedly, last episode I said on the record I expected him to lose. I will have to eat my words. I've never been afraid to be wrong before, so I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, that's not really what I meant, blah, blah, blah. I'll own it. Admittedly, I said that because of his performance in the last couple of years. We talked about how he hasn't looked his best since 2022. Didn't really expect a lot from his performance this past fight, but holy shit, man. He came out looking great, looking strong, looking powerful. Devin Haney has always been made fun of for being, quote, pillow hands Haney. Yeah, completely unexpected. I just want to get your take on what happened that night. What you think happened before that night to get us to that night, please.
So it looked like a boxer that was focused and had a game plan. It feels like the last few fights, the focus going into the fights wasn't all there. Whether it was out the ring stuff, whether it wasn't taking his opponent seriously, just felt like a guy that just didn't have it all upstairs mentally. Now you see a guy that's focused, had a game plan, was sharp, looked in very good shape. Looked like the guy that was in line for big fights a couple years ago. It looked like that guy who was in, that could have fought anyone from Tank to Shakur to whomever. So now it's very interesting to see going into 2026 what we have. That's the performance we've been waiting for. That's the Devin Haney that we've been waiting for years now. Now going forward, the quality of opponents will be better, but it'll be justified to see how he looks. But I can't wait, to be honest with you. I think that was a hell of a performance. I mean, he was basically fighting for his career in a sense. Because if he loses that fight, it's we've gone over this before. When you get to these points in your career, you lose this fight, it's not looking good. But with that being said, it's one of those situations where he took care of business. He knew what was at stake, and here we are now, where we have a whole new situation to where he's going to be in big fights or big fight cards going forward. So that's going to be huge to see. Going forward, to see how he's able to keep that focus, maintain that focus going forward, and see what's out there for him. Because when you come off a victory like that, there's big fights ahead.
Yeah, not only is that the Haney we've been waiting for, that's the Haney we were promised and never really, the promises weren't kept. So I was happy to see, and keep in mind, let's just be clear here, because I complain a lot about boxing fans writing fighters off after one loss, calling them bums. They were never good. I never disliked Haney. Like, I never had an issue with him. I never wanted him to lose. I just wanted to see, a great fighter in the ring. The promise that he showed, I wanted it to continue. So I wasn't being a hater saying that I really wanted to see Haney go down. I just expected it based on, his performances of the last 2 years, especially the one from it was July 4th actually, when the Riyadh Times Square event happened, which was like one of the worst boxing matches of recent memory, I think. So yeah, I mean, I props to him. Sorry I doubted you, King. You still got it, and I really, really am excited to see what he's going to do moving forward. With that said, are we now wanting to see that Garcia rematch that we everybody had written off earlier this year?
So, what has Ryan Garcia done to get a big fight?
I would say you're correct. He probably hasn't done a lot, but I think Haney earns another shot to prove that either Garcia popped for like PEDs in that fight. It was a no contest.
Mm-hmm.
Either Garcia needs to prove that he could actually do it clean, or Haney needs to prove that that was a fluke on his end, because he looked good enough to fight Garcia again. The question is, do we want to see it? Do we think Ryan's a draw? I want to see it personally, just to see that fight how it really should be, with both of them on top of their game. I think it would be exciting, but I don't know. I mean, you do bring up a good point. Ryan Garcia isn't really the superstar he used to be.
Yeah, we know Ryan Garcia for all the wrong things right now. Like, the things we know Ryan Garcia for right now are not boxing related. Mm-hmm. He's talented, he's athletic, but in terms of like boxing, we don't know him or know a lot of him for boxing stuff at this time. I think that's the biggest issue, is that right now we know more of the antics with him than the actual boxing. I think it'd be in Devin Haney's best interest to get away from that sideshow at this point in time. You can come back to that. That's not going nowhere. Ryan Garcia always going to be around for that redemption fight. I would try to take a better fight to move up in the ranks and prepare myself for a title fight or a bigger money fight. The Ryan Garcia situation, it kind of is what it is at this time. I don't think Ryan Garcia is a serious boxer. I think Ryan Garcia is a content creator masquerading as a boxer, but I don't think he's a serious boxer at this time until he proves me otherwise.
That's totally fair. And like I said, I'm only speaking of a rematch because I personally want to see I want to see it done right, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'd be happy to have him run it back. I would have been happy to have him run it back after, that initial fight. But then, Ryan Garcia. But then again, Ryan Garcia always says that, well, I'm focused now, I'm different, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But then antics come into play, his social media starts getting weird, and then he says, well, I'm ready, I'm focused, blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of a pattern with him. It's kind of part of the game plan, buy the ticket, ride the ride kind of a thing, Mm-hmm. But like I said, I want to see this Haney against that Ryan Garcia is after seeing this fight. But I guess you're right. I guess maybe he's probably not the best move for him going forward. He's got some other potential matchups. They're talking about the British fighter Conor Benn, who had a couple of good fights recently. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, the sky's the limit for Devin Haney after that performance. It's so crazy. I had mentioned that I was excited for this Ring 4 event, and I said, not Canelo Crawford levels of excitement by any means, but afterwards, I did feel the same way I felt after Canelo Crawford, in that it reminded me of why I love boxing so much, because mm-hmm. anything could happen. The most unexpected thing, even hell, just Bud Crawford going up whatever it was, 3 weight classes, was crazy. And the result was just unexpected, exciting. And same thing with Haney. You write the guy off and he just comes back in a big way. Something like that really just motivates me, energizes me, and just reminds me why I love this damn sport. So I don't know. I mean, is there anything else that we can think to say about what Devin Haney's future could look like?
I mean, if I'm him, I'm waiting for the Stevenson and Lopez Shakur Stevenson fight before I make any decisions. I see who wins that fight and then go from there. Okay, that's where the money is. That's also potentially where a big mega type fight can be. So it's one of those things to where that's where I'm laying patient for the next month and a half, while staying in shape, while remaining focused, also making sure that the dad is not doing anything crazy or anything like that. So we're staying focused, we're staying on key. I think that's the biggest thing with Devin, because the talent obviously is not an issue. It's just, I think, the focus. I think in the first fight with Ryan, don't think he was well prepared for that fight. I think he took that fight very lightly. I think he was messing around and bullshitting, and he got caught. Now Ryan had an unfair advantage, so it is what it is. But just in general, I don't think Devin Haney was prepared for that fight as he should have, like he was for this one. And I think if he has that same preparation and has the same camp he had going into this fight, going forward, I think it's going to be all right. Now, there's certain guys I don't think he's better than, but I still think he can put together a lot of really good fights in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that even this Devin Haney that we saw a couple weekends ago could beat like Lomachenko very, very clearly without any kind of iffiness from the audience. He did beat Lomachenko on the cards, but I think it was pretty universally. It was not everybody was on board that was a very, very clean win on Haney's part, but yeah, I mean, how about this? Seeing just that the way he put Brian Norman Jr. down in the first one and how like aggro he was in his face, I was like, this man came to fight. He did not come to play. Whatever happened this year, last year, etc. Like just the way he looked, carried himself in his face, like this man is taking this fight seriously. And you're right, he was fighting for his career. And I mean, I can't imagine that these boxers don't realize that. I can't imagine they're that insulated. You hear stories about how celebrities, they've got their bubble, they don't really know what's going on in the real world, blah, blah, blah. But every young guy's got access to social media. They know how they're seen, how they're perceived, right? Especially these days.
You can see social media, but it doesn't mean if you're not taking heed to it, doesn't matter. Like you can have all the social media and have all the stuff around you. There's a lot of people who know what's going on. Doesn't necessarily mean they read the room.
That's true. I guess it's more in the sense of I had to assume that Devin Haney knew he was fighting for his career. He couldn't have thought this was just another fight. I don't know. What do you think?
I would hope he was, but we've seen fighters in that position before not take it seriously either. So that's the thing. You just got to hope that guys are seriously able to do what they got to do. So that's the biggest thing. With that being said, I think that going forward, I think he learned a valuable lesson. I think it's always got scared straight in a way. He went from a situation where he was in a really good spot, undefeated, one of the talk of the young guys coming up, to took basically no contest, but a loss, however you want to classify it. Kind of gets forgotten about, has a lackluster outing, it gets really forgotten about, and then has put together a performance to really get things back on track. I hope he doesn't have to go through those steps again, because a lot of times you don't get that chance to do so. So I think he gets his stuff in order. It's good to see. I would think that he would read the room, but you just never know, man. When you listen to his dad and the people around him, sometimes you get the picture that they don't think he needs to do so. So not quite sure. Not quite sure, to be honest with you.
Those are really good points. Yeah, I mean, you could think that this is obvious to us watching as spectators, and knowing where the arc of somebody's career, but you never know what is getting put into somebody's head by management, training, blah blah blah, people on the inside, whatever. And there's no formula to it. Like you said, there's been guys that really, really needed to win and needed to take it seriously and just came in with a shoulder shrug of a fight. And you're like, how do you not know that this is like go time, bro? Like, what's going on? So that's fair to say. Another thing too that you mentioned is waiting for Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo. We'll talk about that a little later, but that's at the end of January. Devin Haney in the last few years only fought once a year anyway. I believe this year he fought July at the Times Square thing, but I think over the last couple. So it's not like he's rushing to to make another fight in March or something like that anyway, if he continues his pattern. So he's got time to kind of wait it out, see what the landscape looks like, and see if, I don't know, Ryan Garcia is still unjailed or whatever before he makes a decision. So yeah, I guess there's no real rush right now. Anyway, well, I'm excited to see what Haney does in 26 is where we can leave that. Another thing we want to talk about at the event, the main event actually, is David Benavidez. So another pretty exciting, I think maybe not easy work, but clearly showed against Anthony Yard, skill, power, dominated, got a stoppage in round like 7 or something like that. That fight I'm not really super excited to talk about. What I'm more interested in, he mentioned at the end of the fight that so David Benavidez, um, the Mexican monster from Phoenix, Arizona, was at light heavyweight, challenged Canelo, kept getting ducked. He moved up to, I'm sorry. He was at super middleweight.
Mm-hmm.
Challenged Canelo, kept getting ducked, moved up to light heavyweight, challenged Bivol, got ducked. Bivol vacated the belt. So he fought Anthony Yard and the other guy, I forgot his last fight was, but he said now his next fight, he's moving up yet again to cruiserweight to fight Zurdo Ramirez. So I've said this for a while now that David Benavidez is a big guy, naturally a big dude. He's one of those Mexican fighters that a rare Mexican fighter who's tall, has a lot of weight, a lot of power. Usually our folks are little guys, smaller Chavez sized guys. I've always said that Canelo was a little guy that got beefy, but that does not make him not a little guy. It seems like David Benavidez is, well, first of all, it seems like he's listening to me on the show, which I know you're listening, David. I know you are. But I think he's sort of fulfilling his destiny as the big guy who's challenging these other, massive dudes and not focusing on super middleweight or anything like that, which is great for him. The question is, what does he have to do to get his due? I guess you'd say. He keeps challenging the big names. He gets getting turned down. He keeps making fights to his credit. He's not just dilly-dallying and, sitting at home, whatever, cracking a beer. Like, he's out there trying to fight whoever he can. But he keeps moving up, and now he's a cruiserweight. I mean, I can't imagine he's going to try a heavyweight fight. That might be a little too much for him. I don't know. But, he seems to kind of just be throwing anything in the wall and see what sticks. I mean, what do you think about what moves does he have going forward so he can really earn the recognition he deserves?
No one's fighting him. No one that cares about their record or pride is fighting him. Too dangerous, too big of a guy, like you mentioned. Very difficult to game plan for. He's a big guy, has big reach, powerful. I just don't see anyone signing up for that. Like, I understand why Canelo ducked him.
Sure.
I get it. Like, I like that's if Canelo had problems with Bud, he had no chance versus Benavidez. Like, no, like there's no game plan. Even look at Canelo's arms. Canelo doesn't have a great reach like that. He doesn't have a long ganging arms. It's not like he can, stay away and jab and point himself to a victory. That's not the case. He would have to come inside, and that's just not. Yeah, I don't see anyone that's like a big name fighting him at this moment. Could change in the future, depending on money's money. Money changed a lot of things, but I just don't see it. I don't see anyone that has a huge name fighting him. With that being said, he's in a tough spot because as years go on, you kind of lose obviously your own skill set over time. If no one ever comes about, then you got to take chances, like you mentioned. You move up to heavyweight. Those are the things that enter your mind because you can't go down. He's not going to go down. That's not happening. So then you got to start taking chances, and that's where guys get caught. So we'll see what happens. But right now, he's kind of a guy without an opponent, if that makes sense. There's not like a set in stone guy he can fight at this time.
Right. I mean, the biggest opportunity for him is Bivol. And I think there's a chance that he could just keep knocking out all the contenders in the rankings to show like he's to sort of force that fight, force himself into the spotlight. And I think that's what he's doing. Honestly, he's just kind of showing that he's building his brand still, of course. He's building a fan base. The more people see him, the more people they go like, okay, all these dudes he's fighting, it's looked like easy work. So let's see if maybe a Bivol isn't, if it's a real challenge for him. I'm speaking as like the public perception, hypothetically speaking. But no, you're right. I mean, the thing about Benavidez is crazy. If for those of you who didn't see the fight, if you just look up the highlights, Anthony Yard, British guy, like he was just huge, jacked, one of the biggest dudes, that physically imposing dudes that Benavidez has fought so far. Benavidez tall, but he's very lean, and like his arms are lean. He's strong. He is powerful. He's got power punches, but he's not that like massive, jacked, monster that other fighters look like. He's just got skill. But again, neither was Chavez, for example. He's a very lean guy. He's got reach, speed, power. He's that actual strong, not gym strong kind of thing that a lot of people say. So I think he's very deceptive when you look at him and you're like, this guy against somebody who's like huge and jacked and has giant arms. I think it's this. He's kind of a strange fighter. He's a weird fighter in a way that like Tyson was, but under 6 foot, under 6 feet, but he moved like a. He was a heavyweight fighter that moved like a little guy. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Benavidez is a skinny guy that can fight giant dudes really
Right.
well.
Right.
And
Right.
I just don't. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it seems it's hard to know where to plug him, and I think that's part of his strategy of just like, let me just fight any big fucking dude that'll get in the ring with me and show that I've got the skills. That I'm one of the greats. I just hope that it does pay off for him. I mean, where could this end up? Could this just be somebody that just kind of doesn't get their name in the spotlight because he keeps getting ducked and ducked and ducked? I mean, how long can you avoid a fighter like this?
That's the thing. It's tough because no one's signing up for that. That's the thing. No one that has anything to lose is signing up. So there's no one of note that's gonna be like, oh, I'm taking that fight. Just don't see it. I don't. So that's the biggest issue. It's not necessarily. It's more of no one is going to take that chance that they have the options available. So he's kind of in a weird spot where he has to face guys who are not as known and not as talented as some other challengers, just because there's just no one there that's willing to put their situation on the line to fight him at this point of his career.
Right. And I'm going to admit to some ignorance here. So the weight classes go light heavyweight, goes up to cruiserweight, then goes up to heavyweight. Heavyweight is 200 and up. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of cruiserweight names. I know Zurdo Ramirez. I know that he fought Bivol before, but I do believe Zurdo Ramirez went down. Don't quote me on that. But I don't really know any of the names at cruiserweight. Like, do you know of any like big name, any star? Like, I focus
off top. No, off top.
Yeah, because everybody talks about the heavyweight class, like that's kind of its own thing. And because I'm a Canelo fan, I kind of focus a little bit on the super middleweight, and then below because Mexicans fight it. There were little guys, they fight at lower weight classes, so that kind of cruiserweight there, I completely ignored. I'm completely ignorant of it. I don't keep up with it. So I don't even know what is there for Benavidez to do other than just kind of make some more noise as to him being a fighter that deserves the attention. What's the last big name that fought at cruiserweight that a lot of people would know? I think Usyk fought there for a while, but he's more known for heavyweight. Can you think of somebody that's like, oh man, this guy, that maybe not everybody would know, like a Tyson or a Floyd, but just a lot of boxing.
Didn't Roy Jones kind of fight at a cruiserweight when he fought Ruiz, or was that a heavyweight?
I don't remember. See, that's the thing. See, we're trying to figure out who's there.
But it may have been heavyweight. I think Ruiz was a heavyweight, but it was a similar situation where. So here's the thing: Roy Jones ran out of people to fight for a long period of time. Weird weight class, weird opponent situation, just a weird overall situation in general. So with that being said, it's one of those things to where you kind of just are in no man's land in a sense. And it happens every now and then. This happens. For the last, I would say, 20 years, 135 to 154 has been like the money division, where there's always been a bunch of guys, even up to 160, 135 to 160. All those guys, all those divisions have had fights. There's been contenders. There's been guys willing to go up and down. So there's never been those issues. But once you get out of that once you get out of 168, it gets rough at times, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always thought of, and correct me if this is something ridiculous, but I've always thought that that's where heavyweights sort of cut weight to fight, because they didn't want to fight other heavyweights. Like, no disrespect to people who fight at cruiserweight, is that's in my mind how I always thought it. I was just like, well, if you don't want to fight a 200-pound dude, you can just go a little lower below that, because cruiserweight, actually, we should say it's between 175 and 200. Okay, so I know light heavyweight pretty decently well because that's where Dmitry Bivol and Beterbiev, had their couple of fights. That's where Canelo moved up to fight Bivol and lost, so he went back down. But yeah, that little no man's land, like you called it, it's to me in my mind, it's always just been kind of a ghost town. And I hate to say it because again, there's actual talented fighters fighting at that class. I don't know off the top of my head, anybody who who's a big name there. So
Right.
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I feel like I'm kind of rambling a bit because I'm just kind of just throwing out ideas off the top of my head about what's going on with Benavidez, what he could do, and what his game plan is. But the bottom line is that man deserves big fights with big names. He's got the talent, he's got the tools, he's got the talent, and it just sucks that he just keeps getting ducked. I mean, I don't know. Nobody's unbeatable except Floyd, I guess, but nobody's invincible in the ring. So there's got to be somewhere out there that sees Benavidez and think I got something for him. I just hate to see this guy not getting his due. He keeps making fights, he keeps looking good, but I don't know. Fingers crossed. Another thing I want to mention in general about that fight. So, fellas, guys who work out a lot at the gym, just so you know, just because you're jacked, just because you're brawling, doesn't mean you know how to fight. So we saw in the guy that Anthony Yard, who was a talented fighter, don't get me wrong, but I'll put it to you this way: I'd rather fight a big, beefy gym dude than like a tall, skinny guy.
Oh, all day long, all day long.
Yeah. So, fellas, you go to the gym and you work out, you're in great shape. That's awesome. But remember, big beefy arms, they're slower to throw punches. The bigger you are, the slower you are. So I think that's why Benavidez is going to be a confusing fighter for people, because you could say he's essentially kind of skinny. Like, you could say that and not be, and be pretty fair about it. But both boxing talent and power, just be careful about that, fellas. Don't talk don't talk shit just because some dude is tall and skinny at the bars. Anyway, Roy Jones, apparently that fight against John Ruiz was heavyweight. So
got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I don't know. Yeah, but another thing I have to mention, no shout out to DirecTV, because the Ring 4 fight, I went out to see it at so the neighborhood, my favorite sports bar in Tucson, has two locations. There's the downtown one. I wanted to stay closer to home, so I just went there. It was raining and storming like really hard in Tucson that night. Like, it was coming down. And the DirecTV gave out a couple of times the satellite dish on the TVs. First, it happened before the Abdullah Mesa fight. Well, during the ring walks, I didn't miss anything. I missed at least the whole ass round of the Benavidez fight because the satellite dish went out. Maybe even 1.5. I didn't miss the knockout, but somewhere in the middle, it just crashed. And it was really awkward because they had a DJ at the spot, but the DJ stopped and they turned the sounds of the fight on for the whole bar. So while we're sitting there just waiting for the DirecTV to come back, it just was silent, and there was just sounds of just people murmuring and beer glasses getting set down in the bar, and it was very eerie with the rain outside. It was kind of creepy, actually. I was sitting there like, did time stop? Like, am I alive? Where am I? Did I die and not know it? So that was a little disappointing. Thankfully, I didn't miss the big finish. So, but yeah, that was I was a little nervous there that I was going to miss most of that fight. So, speaking of Abdullah Mason, he had a really good performance at the Ring 4 event. Went the distance, no knockout, but he looked good. I don't think that he had any. There's nothing that he showed that showed he lost a step or he wasn't ready. I don't know what you thought about his fight, but I think he's still kind of building his brand and his skills, and could be a great fighter. I don't think him going the distance kind of hurt him in any way. I don't know about you. What are your thoughts there?
So here's the thing. I don't mind, as long as guys are winning when they're coming up, I don't mind it. I mean, sometimes fights take on their own look of how things go. I'm a big proponent of fighters getting better, right? I think the big thing we've gotten caught up in the past is guys look good in these fights that are building their resume, so to speak, to the point where they don't have room to grow. So when they do fight a good fighter, there's no room to show out. It's just like, I feel like sometimes they're a finished product. So I personally don't mind guys that don't have a perfect showing when it comes to some of the smaller fights that they're in. So I don't take a whole lot of credence to that. As long as you don't look very bad, or as long as you're not getting dropped several times, you're fine in my eyes. This is more about getting better, right? Using this fight to get better, because I think a lot of times the fighter that doesn't go through any adversity in all these pre-fights, when they get in the ring and something happens, they panic when you're in there with somebody comparable to you or even better. So I like guys that don't necessarily win blowouts every fight. I like a little adversity because you can lean back on that and be okay when there's a close fight versus a guy in there. So I personally don't mind it. Like, to me, my thing is take care of business, get the W, and move on, but also try to get better.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, well, we're gonna talk a little bit more about that in a second, but yeah, I would say overall this event, we didn't mention Bam Rodriguez, absolutely crushed it in there, masterclass in boxing, just uh, beautiful performance, no real opposition there. I would call it overall a great night of fights. I've given Turkey El Sheikh a lot of crap about previous events, and a lot of them have not built have lived up to the hype, is what I'm trying to say. But this one, solid fights, very active, nobody kind of dilly dallying, nothing boring. So just overall, it's one of those nights where you could say like, well, if you didn't know Devin Haney's history, you're just like, oh, it's a talented boxer, had a good night. You didn't see it as a blowout performance. But I think that's cool to just have solid activity from everybody, and it's just really, really fun night. So, any final thoughts on just overall the Ring 4?
No. Like I said, the biggest thing for me is having quality fights. Like we always say on this show, the more fights, the merrier. We need to get back to where we have fights on as much as possible. We have enough boxers out there amongst all the classes to have fights every weekend. Like, that's how many boxers we do have in terms of all the divisions and everything. We need good quality fights as much as possible. So any event that can produce that, I'm all for.
Yeah, and looks like that they're not slowing down. So the Ring, Riyadh season, the Saudi Arabian promoter, they're having another Ring event, Ring 5, with Naoya Inoue in Japan on December 27th, which I guess would be like, the fight will be probably 4 a.m., 3 a.m. our time. So I'll be looking forward to watching that on YouTube afterwards or whatever, but neither here nor there. And then their next event, Ring 6, is going to be the Teofimo Lopez Shakur Stevenson fight, which I actually want to talk about next.
Yes.
Yes, so it's locked in for January 31st. So it's going to be in New York City. We talked about that, the potentiality of that being in New York. Teofimo's from New York, Shakur's from Jersey, so kind of a natural choice there. Yeah, I mean, my biggest thing that I want to talk about is this fight big enough to bring in a lot more casual fans into boxing, new fans into boxing. They both have their fans, they're big names, but I guess I also kind of fall into the trap of, I follow boxing and don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of boxing people that I talk to other than you and like a couple of friends. So I don't know what the public perception of how many people know who Teo Lopez, who know who Shakur Stevenson is. I don't know how popular they are outside of the boxing world. So I just want to get your take on what we expect for this event and what it's going to do for the sport.
It's a big enough event because Shakur Stevenson's an active guy that likes to market things. So him being out in the marketing trail for the next 6 to 8 weeks, constantly marketing the fight, I think that's a good thing. So I think that's cool. With that being said, there's something interesting about this fight because Teofimo Lopez is also a guy that talks a lot and does a lot of things too. So you have two guys that are be constantly busy, constantly chattering it up regarding this situation. So I think that's a good situation all the way around. The casual fans is tough because normally you need names that people know before they fight. It could be one of those fights where people know their names after the fight. That's how good of a fight it can be. However, I will say this. This is probably the last fight that Shakur Stevenson is going to be the B-side. If he is the B-side of this fight, this is probably the last fight that he's the B-side. I think he's going to take care of business in late January. But yeah, I think this is the last fight where if he's not getting the better of the split or anything like that, this will be the last fight of that.
I can see that. Yeah, I would definitely agree. You make really good points about the marketing. I mean, Stevenson is very charming. Like, he's just like he's good on the mic. He's photogenic. He's just seems like he seems like a fun hang. Just to be honest, like, seems like a cool dude. Teofimo is a pain in the ass. He's a fucking clown. And sometimes I can't stand it, but sometimes he's really funny. Like I can't deny he's really funny, but sometimes you just want to tell him to shut the hell up. So actually, and I remember before that July 4th event, he interrupted somebody asking Devin Haney a question, and Haney was like, "Bro, shut up! You never stop talking," which is and tell people just goes, "Fuck no." I don't know. I just think that shit is really really funny. So it's one of those like Taylor's like a dude I love to hate and hate to love. Talented fighter. So I'm not taking anything away from that, but he definitely is an attention getter.
So I will say this: that fight, Shakur is actually a huge favorite. Minus 350 is a big favorite in this fight. I wasn't expecting that. Even though I think he's going to win, but yeah, right now it's minus 350. Meaning you got to put up $350 to win 100 back. Teofimo is plus 250, meaning that if he wins for every $100 you bet, you get 250 back. So it's very interesting betting lines. It seems like Vegas and the powers that be have Shakur Stevenson well favored in this one.
Yeah, and not to say that Teofimo is like over the hill or anything, but he's as a close personal friend of the show, Al Bernstein said, he's got more tread on his tires.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's 28, he's had a lot more fights, and so I don't know. I mean, he did seem it seemed to be touch and go for him for a while after he lost to Cambosos. And then he had, I remember a fight after that where he won, but he didn't look that great, blah, blah, blah. So there was conversation of, has Teo lost it, etc. I think he's come back strong. I think he's still got it, but definitely, has more fights and more experiences under him than Shakur. So, plus the thing, 28, that's you're basically a grandpa in the sport. Not that he's old at all, but we got to be real about it. Boxing is a young man's game, and this could be, the handoff, the trade off to the new big superstar at this weight class. So,
right.
I don't know. Are you expecting personally, Jamieson? Are you expecting a Stevenson win?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I think this fight should probably have taken place 6 months ago, or not. It should have happened sooner, but that's neither here nor there. This has been talked about over a year now. These two fighting, so I'm glad we finally got it. But yeah, Stevenson's a better fighter. Younger, more athletic, faster. More sharper. He's the guy that, like I said, Vegas coming out this strong with these odds, it makes sense.
Yeah, I would also predict the Stevenson win for sure. The only thing that I don't want is both of these guys kind of avoiding each other because they're both very skilled. They're fast on their feet and they're good at getting in, moving out. Actually get in there and dig in. Neither are fighters that will stand at the center of the ring and fight each other, stand toe to toe if they don't need to. Stevenson has shown that he can do it, absolutely. But these styles are. I gotta say they have similar styles in how they move and how fast they are on their feet. The hitting and the hit and don't get hit aspect of it,
right?
But I am excited, and as long as they really come to actually beat the shit out of each other and put on a good show, I'm for it. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely would say, fight goes the distance. I don't see a knockout on either end.
Yeah.
And then Stevenson comes out on
a female outboxing Shakur though. Well, I'd be shocked if that happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a fight. I believe it was last year. I think maybe that I saw Stevenson on. I believe it was the one that was on my birthday, and I do forget who he fought. I'm sorry, Teofimo. Teofimo fought last year. Forget who it was. Came out with the win, but definitely looked like he got outclassed and outboxed in this one. To me, he won, but like barely. So again, Teo isn't, invincible, undefeatable, and he's not unoutclassable. If that's unoutboxable. And I think Stevenson's got the good. So I think this is a fight that, based on their personalities, like, the promotion needs to go real hard on, the interviews, the clips, the reels, the shorts of them, messing with each other. All of that stuff, I think, can get regular people interested in boxing with two dynamic personalities, engaging guys. I think this is one where the personalities are right. And it's fun. It's not just like Mike Tyson threatening to murder somebody and like sexually, debase them and, eat their bones or whatever. This could be a little bit more lighthearted between them. And I think I think it could be really, really good opportunity um, to bring in new fans, and especially again because these guys are young, especially Shakur, people that want to find a new fighter and then follow them for a while and become fans. Prime, like the field is right. The opportunity here is just like it's theirs for the taking. So please don't screw this up.
Right.
Be different than I don't know. Like if I became an Archer, better be a fan like this year. Still a great fighter, but there's like years and years that I missed out on. You know what I mean? It's not like that.
Fair.
Anyway, so almost there. 2026 is around the corner, and I'm really excited about what's going to happen there. But in the meantime, let's switch gears and move on to our segment that we call Pop Pugilism, in which we discuss a movie, TV show, documentary about boxing. And today, went back into the 90s. Ask your parents or grandparents about the 90s, kids. To talk about The Great White Hype from 1996, directed by Reginald Hudlin. Starring Samuel L. Jackson, Jeff Goldblum, Damon Wayans, Peter Berg, Jamie Foxx. Stacked cast. Well, that's not even everybody in the cast, but with big names, but it is absolutely stacked. So the story, it's a boxing comedy. It's a satire about the boxing world. Samuel L. Jackson essentially plays a Don King caricature, trying to make a fight for his fighter Damon Wayans. The Grim Reaper Roper is the name of the fight. Really stupid name for for a fake fighter. Like I know it's a comedy, but that's pretty stupid. But anyway, so Samuel L. Jackson is trying to make a fight. His whole thing is Damon Wayans' most recent fight was a financial flop because audiences are tired of seeing black versus black fighters. They need a white guy to inspire the hopes of white boxing fans. So he ends up finding Peter Berg, an amateur fighter who defeated Damon Wayans, and convinces him to get back in the ring. And it's essentially a marketing scam to try to build some hype of the idea of a white heavyweight fighter. So yeah, just before we talk about some more about this movie and how it fits into the boxing world and race and culture, what did you think about it as it was, Jameson?
So I remember watching this movie when it came out. I remember watching it in the 90s. I remember it being on HBO forever and Cinemax forever. So I've seen it hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. It was basically a playoff Don King, basically. That's kind of what it was. And it was interesting because a lot of the things you hear about, it's like boxers have a bunch of cars and they get paid and everything but money. So it was definitely fascinating. But at the end of the day, we know what makes boxing, and boxing makes mixed culture fights. That's what brings out the biggest cards because you have two different types of people interested in the fight. So this one was a case of black versus white, which was very big up until probably about the 2000s. Then ever since then, it's been mainly black, Mexican, black, and some sort of Hispanic, country or culture. So that's been the shift, but it was cool. It was funny, but it really depicted a lot of what we've known boxing to be about. So that was cool.
Yeah, I remember seeing this on HBO while channel surfing. I've never seen it all the way through. I didn't know that much about it, but I've seen bits and pieces. Like it's definitely familiar, but not enough that I knew the story. And also, I don't know that when I was a kid, I really knew the idea of the Great White Hope being a real thing. So, and sorry for those of you who don't know, that's a thing that people will find a white fighter that they would call the Great White Hope because the desire is for them to beat the black heavyweight champion. Like it's not subtle. They're absolutely saying like we don't like that there's a black heavyweight champ and we need to find a white guy to defeat him. Like that's been a thing that's been going on forever in boxing. So that's kind of where the satire from this movie came from. Yes.
Yeah, that's why Rocky's created and had a bunch of spinoffs. That's basically like when Rocky first came out in the late 70s, early 80s, the heavyweight division was being ran by black guys. So the thought of a random white underdog guy, being able to beat a black heavyweight champ was a thing. So it's the reason why we've had several of these types of movies come out over the years is it kind of tells a story of what they want or wish to see, but a lot of times it ain't reality.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I do like that the idea that they take that concept and make it into a satirical comedy. I like that it shows the darker side of boxing. I always enjoy when movies do that. Even though, absolutely love the sport. It's the only sport I've ever truly cared about or ever been invested in, ever been passionate about. But I'm also realistic. I'm not a dummy. Like, I know it's corrupt and it's fucked up, and people get screwed over, people die, people get injured. It's very dangerous. I just I always like show a little bit of everything. A lot of boxing movies we watch and talk about on the show, they're triumphant stories. Boxing brings people out of poverty. It brings them into fame. Blah blah blah, and that's cool. Like, I'm happy to watch those movies, but I do like this one that it's got shady backroom dealings. It's got money changing hands to hype up a fighter just for the sake of the show and not really the good of the sport, etc. So that I enjoyed. I did get some laughs. Some stuff it doesn't hold up as well. But I do appreciate the race stuff. The jokes about race sort of being front and center. It does not shy away from any of that.
Right.
You got John Rhys Davies, who plays Gimli in Lord of the Rings, telling Peter Berg is like, "Do it for the white race. You're Irish, but they're basically white," which is I thought was really funny. I was like, okay. I mean, also it's a little hard to watch because John Rhys Davies as a person is pretty racist. And I remember him just going off on tears about Muslims and how terrible they are for being Muslims. So that guy's a scumbag. But there's some lines here that I'm like, it's that I'm like, okay, it's not funny when somebody says it seriously, but when it's in a comedic movie, it got me. It's not okay to say in mixed company. But yeah, I liked like I said, the cast is cool. Peter Berg playing Irish Terry Conklin, the contender, the challenger. He actually ended up being a popular director. I don't think his movies are very good, but he's a well-known director now. He works a lot with Marky Mark. He did all the Marky Mark saves people from real tragic events like the Deepwater Horizon oil rig thing, the Boston Marathon bombing thing. All those are Peter Berg movies. He makes kind of basic action movies, but so I've known about that guy for a long, long time. I knew he did acting, but I've never actually seen him in like an extended role. He did okay, but I just think he portrayed the ridiculous character pretty well. Another great line was they announce him at the press conference as Irish Terry Conklin. Backstage, he says, "I'm not Irish," and John Lovett says, "It's boxing. It just means you're white. Get out there."
Right. That's correct.
So that got me, but yeah, I mean, here's one thing that I was very curious about this movie that I want to get your take on. This is very much an inside boxing movie. Like,
Yes.
I enjoyed it and I appreciate what it was doing because I know boxing, but I can't imagine that a lot of people who just want to watch like a comedy or fans of Samuel L. Jackson, for example, that they'll really connect with this. I mean, but again, this is in '96 when boxing was huge. It's not like it was now, I just want to see what your thoughts on and how accessible this movie would be that somebody is not a boxing fanatic and boxing obsessed like we are.
With that being said, I think it did enough to show the background of the sport while being funny and engaging. And I think that's a big thing, being able to show things in a funny light. That is a thing. That helps a lot when it comes to these kind of things. So I definitely think that's the case for sure.
Yeah, that's a good take. I'm curious about it because it's boxing. The actual fights are not front and center, and the match at the end, it's not very well choreographed. You can tell these guys didn't do actual boxing training, which is fine. It's not Michael Man's Ali or anything like that, or Creed, where you can tell that like these dudes train to be boxers essentially. But it does seem like it's about the business. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's so much about the business of boxing that I was just wondering, just your thoughts on how.
So 30 years ago, boxing was way bigger in this country than it is today, and a lot of people who were of age understood and knew more about the business because at that time you had these promoters getting sued left and right, and you heard a lot of horror stories. You also had a lot of stories about boxers not getting paid what they were worth. So it's one of those things where I think at the time it was perfect because that's a time where Tyson got out of jail. Also a time where Evander Holyfield was having issues with, his promoters. It was just a lot. You always heard of boxers not getting paid their full worth for whatever that meant, whether the contract was bad, whether the promoters were just janky, whatever it may have been. We always heard these stories, and these guys were always in courtrooms, and it made the news. So I think at the time it was just right.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, and Don King was a very, very like prominent figure. A lot of people knew him, not just the look, but the way he talked, etc. So I can see that. I can't imagine anybody back then seeing a trailer for this movie and not going, "Oh, he's Samuel L. Jackson is playing Don King," just with a different name.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I also, now we've seen like a bunch of, speaking of Don King, we've seen a bunch of different portrayals of him. It's Samuel L. Jackson playing him, a character that's supposed to be him. We've seen Ving Rhames do it in the biopic for HBO, and in the Sydney Sweeney movie, Christy, we saw it. I don't remember his name, but Cuddy from The Wire, playing Don King. What are your thoughts on how Sam Jackson sort of embodied the spirit of this character? I thought it was great.
Did very well. Did very, very well, and we knew what he was doing. Right, we knew the role he was playing. So no, it's very good, man. Like I said, the acting was actually really good. They depicted the things that us true sports and boxing fans know about all the way around. So it was cool. Like, no complaints at all. To me, the biggest thing in this particular thing was just showing the real, because all this stuff is real. You also have a boxer that didn't take the fight seriously and then turns it up when it needs to. All these things have we seen, those things we've actually seen before in real life. So it's just like, yeah, this is based off a true story in some way, shape, or form. That's just kind of how it goes. But no, it was definitely a good boxing movie. It's actually a movie I would have someone watch if they wanted to know more about boxing itself, because it covers everything.
Okay. Yeah, I think Samuel L. Jackson is definitely someone that's naturally gifted to play a Don King, because he's, a big character, very charismatic, and just larger than life. And just to make sure, give a shout out to the man. Chad L. Coleman is the actor who played Don King in the movie Christie that we talked about last episode. Cuddy from The Wire. But yeah, no, that is a good point, because it does have a little bit of everything. And if somebody is, I was under the impression while I was watching it that it may turn off non-boxing fans, but I can see it from your perspective that it talks about shady business dealings, fighting itself, training, etc., race issues, racism, that it could be a good opening salvo for somebody that wants to learn about the sport. And honestly, someone like me that never really cared that much about behind the scenes stuff. I've heard the stories, but I always only cared about what happened when the bell rang. I kind of seeing it in a different light after talking about it with you. So well, and on this show, we rate movies out of 4 gloves. Jamieson, how would you rate The Great White Hype?
Oh, 3.666. Like, very, very good. It wasn't perfect acting, but it served the purpose. It was really good. Like I said, it's one of those movies where whenever it was on, I would mess around and finish watching it. So it was cool. It was always on. When you have HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, it was always on. So it's kind of nostalgic for me.
Yeah, I don't think it got didn't do a lot of numbers in box office. It wasn't very critically regarded. I think it's underrated, underseen. And if you're a boxing fan at all, a modern day boxing fan and want to learn more about how it was in the 90s, definitely a strong recommend. I would give this 3.5.
That's cool. That works.
Yeah, definitely check it out. So Jamieson, where can people find you on social media?
Before we get shout outs, I don't know if it's been talked about or anything yet, but we are getting Crawford and Canelo too. And yes, Crawford aims to go first when you win the first one. So we are getting, I would be shocked if we don't get it. There's no one else for either guy to fight. There's money there. The first fight was close enough for them to be another one. So I think we get an announcement sometime within the next 30 days or so that we're getting a second fight between the two.
You know what? It's December. It's Christmas season. Let's give it a little gift of some extra bonus content here. Yeah. Okay. Before we close off, we could talk about that. So Bud Crawford did say he wants 100 M's for the fight. 100. Do you think that he could get it? Okay, that's right. He deserves it. Do you think he can get it from this?
Yes, absolutely. If you put out Christmas Day saying, "Hey, we're fighting in September again. You have an 8-month marketing plan for a rematch and go from there. I think absolutely. Absolutely. And you have it in another football stadium, whether it's a Legion or whatever. Yes. And it gives you time to put it on Amazon, Netflix, whomever. Somebody got the bag. Somebody got it. And that's the thing. He's at the stage of his career. He can't go back and fight anyone else. There is no one else he can fight for the money. Like, it's like anything else. Once you get used to a certain quality of something, you're not going back down to the next. It's not happening. So I equate the stakes. Once you have like fine steak, you're not just going to settle for any old thing unless you have to. He don't have to. He's the guy that's in the position to bargain. Also, Canelo. Canelo don't have a lot of other mega fights out there anyway, even though he's a very popular name. We know the Mexican people will come out and support him wherever he's fighting and will watch and will be ready for the fight, the whole nine. So 100 million might be a bit steep. It's one of those things where he might want 100, but he'll settle for 75. Okay. As long as he's the A side of the fight this time and making the majority of the purse, I think he's okay with that. But here's the thing. There's no other fight either of them could fight at this moment, and there's still money for a second fight.
Yeah, I 100% agree that he deserves it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying, wondering how realistic it is. But yeah, I mean, Canelo is any other option for anybody to be excited about a Canelo fight, like really excited, would be if he fights Benavidez, which you won't do, or rematches Bivol, which you won't do, in my opinion. I really don't see either happening, especially not Bivol, because now he knows that he can't beat the guy.
Right.
So yeah,
there's no big money in that. Him fighting Crawford again and vice versa, there's big money in that. There's a Super Bowl type of feel with that. Even though the first fight was what it was, the scorecards were closer than we actually thought in real life. However, there is money there. And at the stage of both these guys' careers, there's not another mega fight out there for either guy at this time. The longer we wait, the more you risk losing out on that fight. So that's why I said I think we get announced within the next 30 to 45 days.
Sure. And you're talking about the money side. What I'm saying is that in terms of like to be excited, I'll put it to you this way. So I'm a Canelo fan. I'm always gonna tune in for his fights. I'm always gonna be excited for his fight, because there is a difference between him fighting Bud Crawford versus him fighting, honestly, whoever the hell he fought last time in May of this year. The Cuban guy, it was a boring fight. I sort of I'm not even going to look it up because I'm literally just like racking my brain to try to remember.
I get where you're coming from. It's just one of those things where both of those dudes are at a stage where the options are very limited.
Sure. Yeah, and for me saying like, who else could he fight for me to not just go watch Canelo fight because I like the guy, but who else could like get me pumped up and like, let's see, what, if there's a challenge, maybe Canelo can beat a bigger guy, etc. I'm not really feeling. Other than I would be stoked for a Benavidez fight or a Bivol rematch. I don't see it happening. And other than the Bud Crawford rematch, there's nobody else Canelo could fight right now I can think of that would really, really kind of get me hyped. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I want to see it for sure. I don't know that. I think it could be Canelo's big finale, his big goodbye. So if he takes a fight, a tune-up in May, another guy that not super exciting.
He has two fights left on the deal, right? Yep. So I have a tune-up fight in May, and then in September, that's the swan song, and everybody get paid, everybody have fun, and everybody lives happily ever after.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, and I say this as a fan, so please let me know what your thoughts are. I wouldn't say that would be a bad career ender for Canelo, even if he loses to Bud again. Even if he loses again, I'm not going to say that. Oh, he went out like a loser, like a bum, blah blah blah.
No, he's fought everyone. Like outside of Benavidez, he's fought everyone, and he's taken all challengers for about 15 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can't really ask more than that. More than that.
No, even if he retires on a loss, I'm going to say we're going to look back at that man's career and be, there's no shame in it, and he's been an excellent fighter, excellent not just him as a fighter, excellent for the sport. Right. The biggest pay-per-view star, one of the few pay-per-view stars, and that's something we're going to have to talk
for a while. He carried after Floyd retired, or whatever you want to call it. He carried it because he was the main box office guy. and he delivered most nights. So gotta give him credit.
Yeah, the only thing that I might be bummed about is after that fight, if Bud Crawford, he's 40 now and he's not a young guy. Like we're not going to see. I don't know that we're going to see much more Bud Crawford now that he's a big star and he's a big household name after this Canelo fight. I mean, of course, we'll talk more about this throughout the rest of the year, but it's like, okay, we talked earlier about Shakur beats Teo, and Shakur is now the guy because he's got a flourishing career. You hand over the reins of the sport for that division. Right. Canelo's not handing shit over to Crawford. Like Crawford's, as great as he is, he's not going to keep fighting for another 10 years.
No, and that's the thing. That's why I think another fight gets done because both are kind of on borrowed time. Both are on a, hey, we need to, we need to get this done because there's no other payday like this, as well as the opportunity, because it's only worth, for both of those guys, it's only worth to fight each other instead of fighting other people for the big boy fights.
Yeah, it's an exciting prospect for the fight, and then a really interesting prospect for the boxing world after this happens. And we'll see what both guys do, if anything. If Bud does get his 100 M's, like, well, why the hell would he go back in the ring after that anyway?
Especially at the age he's at. I mean, he got like 6 kids, and I think 1 in the oven, something like that, or 5, 1 in the oven. So, I mean, hey, if you can get another 100, if you can get another 75 on the way out or 100 on the way out, you got to especially remember, he didn't make a bunch of millions on Top Rank like that. He was kind of underpaid because with the ESPN deal and Top Rank being how they are, it was kind of weird. So now he gets one final payday on the way out. He's already good with money as is. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would be excited for it. I spoke about it right after the first one happened that I want to see a rematch. I would be excited for a rematch. Do we really need it? Maybe not necessarily, but
no, but again, it happens.
Yeah. There's fights that we don't need that I'm like, get that shit out of my face plenty of times. You know what I mean? Right. So this is a fight that I don't need that I personally would be very excited about. And at the end of the day, it's all going to be that is what do I want to watch? Because yes, we can talk about what's good for the sport, but like, I don't know. Jake Paul makes a lot of money for the sport and I don't give a shit about him.
Right.
Anyway, so on that parting shot, literally, let's, as I was saying, Jamieson, where can people find you on social media?
On Twitter at the Jamieson, on there during all the boxing events, everything else. So that's the best place to find me.
Great. Excellent. You can follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We're at Mixed Co Podcast on all those platforms. Make sure you're subscribed to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Please leave us a 5-star review. It only takes a minute, and it really helps us out. You can watch us on YouTube. The link is on the show notes, or find our playlist on the 19 Media Group channel. Give us a like, leave us a comment, ask some questions there. We have an official show email address if you have any questions for the mailbag or fun stories about watching boxing and mixed company or predictions for any future fights. Send it to letters@mixedcopodcast.com. And don't forget, we drop new episodes every other Thursday. So please join us again on December 18th for our Christmas episode. And we bring you Mas Fuego from the boxing world. We have been the Mixed Company Podcast, a 19 Media Group production. Thank you so much for listening, and salud.